Church, welcome to our Five for Faith today. We're finishing up our study in James. If you haven't had a chance to read it, I want to encourage you to do that. There's so much in it, and it'll kind of add to our conversation today. But we're ending up with James chapter 5. He addresses a few things that he started off his book with, and he kind of brings it all together in chapter 5. One of these themes is about rich people, and he really nails it in chapter 2, but he finalizes it here with a warning. Earlier he wrote that we shouldn't favor rich people over poor people, especially in the church. It's just not a good thing to elevate them over somebody else. In chapter 5, he says again to those rich people, do not hoard your wealth, but give it away, because God is watching. He uses strong language to tell those rich people that if you have the means, be fair if you have employees, or be fair with those around you who need it, and give it away, or misery will be upon you. Some strong language. You know, sometimes rich people, they'll get a bad rap. I'm sure, like me, you've known rich people who are very much givers. And especially when God gets their heart, they oftentimes give away a lot of their riches. I think of the owner of Caterpillar, those yellow earth movers and tractors and large implements. When God got his heart, he said, I'm going to give away what God has given me. And he ended up giving away 99%. And lived off 1%. What a tremendous living out of his faith. I shared this story earlier in when I preached about this guy from Kentucky Fried Chicken. He's the owner of it here in town. He owns a few of those in Salem as well, and a lot of other business adventures. But when I contacted him, we were doing our trunk or treat event for Halloween, and I said, hey, we're looking for help from businesses in our area. Would you help? And when I told him what we were doing, he said, I'm all in. And he ended up giving us hundreds and hundreds of dollars of candy. And he said, you know, if one person hears about Jesus or has touched a family, it's all worth it. Boy, folks, this is what God is calling rich people to do. But, you know, to tell you the truth, all of us need to consider where we can give and sacrifice. We all need to be in the game and ask God, what talents or treasures, things I can give away, my time, serving in any way that you see fit. And whether we're poor, rich, or struggling, doesn't matter. How can we give? Secondly, James finishes another major theme referring to this thought of enduring during trials, temptations, and suffering. He says, consider my servant Job. And we all know how Job's story turned out, that he endured to the end. In my past church, there was a missionary who received news that she had terminal cancer. And her husband had served dozens and dozens of years out in the field as missionaries, and when I went to visit her, I said, how are you dealing with this? And her response to me is still just cuts me to the core. She says, Dave, cancer is good for the soul. Only someone who has walked through it and had God at her side, truly a saint if you ask me, would be able to utter those words. But in the end, James says, God is full of compassion and mercy. Church, when we're facing trials of many kinds, maybe even suffering, we know that God is merciful to us, and we can rest in that. And finally, he ends the book, chapter 5, by telling us and encouraging us to pray, and pray more often. He says, pray in faith, pray diligent, pray if you are in trouble. Pray if you're happy. Pray if you are sick. And pray for healing. In all these things, folks, James wants the believers to be doers of their faith. Don't just sit or rest on your faith, but live it out. So church, if there's anything we can capture by ending our time in James, is to say, put our plow to our faith. Thanks for listening, church. We'll talk to you again soon.